Hi everyone, I'm back with a new video series about buying a second-hand car. I will give you some tips and advice on buying second-hand cars. Together we will look at some desirable cars that are now 10 to 15 years old and that could be interesting for you to buy. We discuss cars that were out of reach when introduced, but now are affordable and still come from respected manufacturers. Today, the first car we will look at is the Mercedes-Benz C-Class, the model W203, one of my most favorite Mercs of all time. This car came to the market when I was 15 years old. I remember our neighbor owning one and I liked the classic Mercedes styling from the early 2000s. From the outside it looked stylish and from the inside it looked like a quality product. Today we check if that feeling is correct or not. Let's have a closer look. The W203, the second generation Mercedes C-Class, came to the market in 2000 and was produced until early 2007. The early models of the car had some electronical issues, and as time went on, we find out that most of these early production cars were very poorly built. Well, I should say the paint of the car was of inferior quality, since this was paint on a water basis. This had impact on the rest of the car. All W203s are suffering from rust, which is quite shocking. Not what you expect from a premium car like the Mercedes-Benz. The good thing about it is that these cars can be picked up relatively cheap. So the origin of the problem lays in the paint job. Mercedes started cutting costs in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and as a result they started using water-based paint. This type of paint is not durable, and as a result, mostly in Western Europe, where winters can be cold, and the climate is sometimes harsh on the car, problems started to occur. The problems with rust started on the door panels, the trunk lid, the wheel arches, etc. If you maintain your car and try not to drive around extreme winter conditions, the problems can be handled. But it takes constant attention to not let the problem get out of hand. There are also stories about malfunctioning electronics. In the early production models, some of the issues are caused because of water buildup in the water drainage under the front window. The drainage can be plugged up because of leaves and other waste. Eventually the water will find its way to the electronics, which is bad news. Now that the bad news is out of the way, let's look at the good news. What does this car have that other cars don't have? The engines are all masterpieces. Just a few issues we will discuss later on in the video. Also, this Mercedes offers a comfortable drive. It feels very planted on the highway, and the highway is where it feels right at home. If you go for such a car, you should go for the facelifted models of the W203. And these facelifted models were made between 2004 and 2007. In the facelifted models, Mercedes made some updates to combat the electronical issues, and also they started to use a different kind of paint. I think even in 2017 this is a desirable car. Not only because of the badge, but in my eyes it looks like a small S-Class. Also the interior feels like it could last 100 years. It's solid and durable, but to some people a bit boring. What matters for me is the engine and the comfort when I look for a car. And in that aspect this Mercedes is doing well. Even if you go for the diesels, there's plenty to choose from. And the gasoline engines had some compressors to give it some extra boost. Nice technology. Cars with high mileage shouldn't be a big problem, just as long as there's a complete service history of the car, and the car has been serviced every year. Like I said before, the engines are not the problem. Mercedes engines are among the best engines in the world. The biggest enemy of the W203 is rust. Sometimes you can pick up a W203 for under 5,000 euro, but expect to invest some time, money and sweat getting the car back into shape. Almost no one can escape the rust. I bet if rust wasn't an issue, these cars would cost around 10,000 euros for a 2005 model. Interior space is not the biggest in its class, but it's acceptable. The T models or wagons were also used as taxis in Europe. To my knowledge, this is a testament that these cars were built for extreme mileages and comfortable driving. There is also a wide variety of engines to choose from the 180 compressor to the very rare AMG models. AMG even made a C30 CDI, the only fast diesel engine that was put together by AMG. AMG normally only tunes gasoline engines. People say a Mercedes is expensive, but in the long run it might be cheaper to run than a Ford Fiesta in terms of repairs and it's definitely holding its value better than anything else. Let's take a look at the engines. We start with the gasoline engines or petrol engines. Overall they're bulletproof, but there are several models out there that suffer from carbon buildup and timing chain issues. The timing chain of the engine should be replaced every 130,000 kilometers to reduce the risk of serious engine damage. Do this as a precautionary measure. The M271 engine from Mercedes is best left alone in this regard. The same goes for the V6 engines. In this case we talk about the M272 engine. This is the V6 petrol engine from Mercedes. There are issues with the balance shaft and the timing chain. Balance shaft issues can be pricey to fix, and the timing chain needs replacement every 150,000 kilometers. Here's a summary of all petrol engines from Mercedes-Benz for the W203. So to summarize the overall problems for the car with the petrol engine, we talk about oil leaks, coolant leaks, worn spark plugs, sensor failures which result in fake error messages, and these problems can mainly be found on the early production models. Now let's check out the available diesel engines for this car. Mercedes and diesel is a golden combination. The diesel engines are very well put together. There are only some typical issues you will find on every diesel car, like for instance injector problems with the turbochargers, contaminated EGR valves, swirl flap issues with the diesel pump and fuel leaks. That sounds like a whole lot, but you have to understand that this car is well documented. There's lots of information to be found on the internet, and most of these cars have been used by business people or deployed as a taxi. So a fair share of these cars have astronomical mileages, which is a further testament of the durability of the engines. For all engines, no matter if it's a petrol or a diesel engine, it's vital to change or add oil every 10 to 15,000 kilometers. Gearboxes available for this car is either the 6-speed manual or the 5 to 7-speed automatic. If you have any questions about this car or you want to share your own experience from owning this car, please leave a comment. If you want more car buying reviews, hit the subscribe button and somehow magically you will find our videos coming your way. Drive safe, see you guys in the next video.